I never thought a single day could change everything. But that's exactly what happened the morning I walked out of my office for the last time. The security guard barely looked at me as I left, and the elevator ride down felt longer than usual. My job had been my life for the past 6 years, the thing that kept me proud, confident, even happy. And just like that, it was gone. I thought losing my job would hurt me, sure, but I had no idea it would break my life in ways I couldn't even imagine. I came home that evening expecting comfort, expecting a warm smile, or at least a hug from my wife, Emma. Instead, the apartment was quiet. Too quiet. And then I saw her standing by the doorway, suitcase in hand, her face a mixture of anger and disappointment. She didn't even wait for me to explain. "I can't do this anymore," she said, her voice shaking, but not with tears. "I can't watch you spiral while I'm left carrying everything. I'm leaving." Just like that, my whole world turned upside down. I felt like I was drowning on dry land. The person I thought would stand by me through anything had disappeared, leaving only a note on the kitchen counter. "I need a fresh start, without you." I spent the next few weeks in a blur of rejection emails, empty coffee cups, and sleepless nights. Every knock on the door or buzz from my phone made my heart race. Was it good news? Or just another reminder that I was failing? And that's when something unusual happened. Emma's sister, Julia, always the quiet, observant one, the one who had never really said much, called me. At first, I didn't even want to answer. I thought, what could she possibly want? But she insisted, saying she had an opportunity that might be right for me. I was desperate enough to say yes, not knowing that this call would start something I could never have imagined. When I arrived at Julia's place, she explained the job quietly, almost casually, but there was something in her eyes, something I couldn't read at first. It wasn't just business. She looked at me differently than anyone had in months. She offered me hope when I had none, a chance to rebuild, and slowly, I began to notice it. The way she smiled at me lingered longer than it should. The way she laughed at my jokes felt personal, like she saw something no one else did. I didn't know whether to feel grateful or confused. And the more time I spent with her, the more I realized that my life had begun to twist into a direction I never expected. A direction I wasn't sure I was ready for. Because what started as a lifeline for my wife's sister might just turn into something dangerous. And I was about to cross a line I didn't even know existed. I should probably explain a little about my life before everything fell apart. I wasn't always this unlucky guy clinging to a dwindling paycheck. I had a steady career in marketing, a cozy apartment in the city, and a wife who I thought loved me. At least, that's what I believed. Emma and I had met in college, and for the first few years, it was perfect. Late-night talks, small trips, inside jokes that no one else got. But somewhere along the way, the perfect picture started to crack. Emma always had big dreams, bigger than mine. She wanted to travel, to explore, to climb some invisible ladder of success. I supported her, of course. I loved her, but I also believed in stability, in planning, in keeping a roof over our heads no matter what. That difference in our priorities never seemed like a problem, until the day I lost my job. Then there was Julia, Emma's younger sister, sharp, ambitious, and fearless. She had this way of looking at the world that made you feel like you were missing out if you didn't keep up. She'd always been close to Emma, but for some reason, she had never really tried to get close to me. Until now. Suddenly, she was the first person to see me without the filter of being my wife's husband. She saw me as I was, scared, frustrated, and completely vulnerable. It was strange, the way she treated me differently. She didn't pity me, and she didn't judge me. She offered solutions, connections, advice, and, most importantly, a sense of hope. When she suggested the job, it wasn't just a lifeline. It felt like a lifeline handed to me by someone who genuinely wanted me to succeed. That feeling, it was intoxicating. I started showing up at her office a few days a week, trying to prove that I could still be useful, that I wasn't completely broken. We worked late nights sometimes, and those were the moments when the walls between us seemed to fade. We'd talk about life, about dreams, about failures, and for the first time since Emma left, I felt like someone really saw me. But even as I grew closer to Julia, there was a shadow over everything. A small, nagging voice inside me that whispered, "This isn't right. This is her sister. You can't." But then she'd laugh at something I said, or smile in a way that made me forget the voice entirely. And Emma was still out there somewhere. I had no idea if she regretted leaving, or if she was happy with her new life, or if she even thought about me at all. I couldn't reach her, and the thought of her moving on while I was stuck here made everything heavier. So here I was, stuck in a strange middle ground, rejected by the woman I thought I'd spend my life with, drawn in by the woman I shouldn't be drawn to, and completely unsure of what the future held. Every decision felt like a gamble. Every glance between Julia and me carried unspoken questions. And as the days passed, I started noticing things that didn't quite add up, little hints, strange coincidences, and moments that made me wonder if Julia's intentions were really as innocent as I wanted to believe. Because hope, I realized, can be just as dangerous as heartbreak. Things started to get complicated faster than I ever imagined. The job Julia gave me wasn't easy. It demanded long hours, creative thinking, and constant problem solving. But that wasn't what weighed on me the most. It was the way she looked at me when I succeeded, the way her praise lingered just a second too long, the subtle touches on my arm or shoulder that made my heart race when I knew it shouldn't. I tried to keep my distance, reminding myself that she was my wife's sister and nothing more. But the more time we spent together, the blurrier the lines became. I caught myself laughing at jokes I normally wouldn't care about, lingering in conversations that should have ended 5 minutes ago. Even my friends noticed it. "You've changed," one of them said. "In a good way, or?" I didn't answer. I couldn't put into words the storm brewing inside me. And then there was Emma. I hadn't heard from her since that night she walked out. But suddenly, small things began appearing in my life. Missed calls, brief messages, mentions from mutual friends. She was back in my orbit, whether I wanted it or not. And it wasn't just her presence that shook me. It was the memory of what we had, the love we once shared. I realized I wasn't ready to let go, even if my heart was already being drawn to Julia. One night, we were working late, the office empty and the city quiet outside. Julia laughed at something I said, and then, just like that, she leaned closer. Closer than friends should, closer than family should. My pulse jumped, and for a moment, I froze. I didn't move away. She didn't either. It was like the world had shrunk to just the two of us. And that's when I noticed it, a shadow moving outside the window, just beyond the glass. My heart skipped. At first, I thought it was nothing, a reflection maybe, or someone walking by. But then the movement repeated, deliberate, lingering. Whoever it was, they were watching. I wanted to tell Julia, to brush it off, but something in the pit of my stomach told me this wasn't ordinary. The night that had started as a simple work session had suddenly turned into something dangerous. Because in that moment, I realized my life was no longer just about losing my job or my wife leaving. Someone, or something, was paying attention to every step I took, and I had no idea whether it was linked to Emma, Julia, or something far worse. After that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Every text from Julia, every friendly laugh, every casual touch suddenly carried a weight I couldn't explain. I kept replaying that shadow outside the window, over and over in my head. Who could have been watching us? And why? Work became a minefield. I started noticing tiny things. Files moved, notes I hadn't written left on my desk, strange emails that seemed harmless but didn't make sense. I tried to tell myself it was stress, that losing Emma and starting over with Julia had my mind playing tricks. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just me. Julia seemed oblivious, or maybe she was pretending to be. She smiled, leaned close, laughed at my jokes, all while I felt a growing tension I couldn't escape. She had this ability to make everything feel normal and extraordinary at the same time, and I realized I was addicted to it, even as the voice in my head screamed that I was stepping into dangerous territory. Then, one evening, everything changed. Julia asked me to come to her apartment after work. She said it was important, that she needed my help with something urgent. I felt a strange thrill, part fear, part excitement, as I walked up the steps to her door. When she opened it, the apartment was dark, lit only by the soft glow of a lamp. Her eyes looked different, more intense, and I couldn't look away. We talked for a while, casually, about work, about life, about things that didn't matter, but the air between us was charged. I felt drawn to her in ways I couldn't explain, and I knew she felt it too. The closer I got, the more I feared crossing a line I wasn't supposed to cross. And then I noticed the envelope on her coffee table. It wasn't addressed to me. Not exactly. But something about it made my stomach knot. Julia's hand brushed mine as she reached for it, and the contact sent a jolt through me I wasn't ready to feel. I wanted to ask what it was, but before I could, my phone buzzed. A message from Emma. Just one line. "We need to talk. Now." My chest tightened. The timing couldn't have been worse. I had to make a choice. Julia was right there, her eyes searching mine, and I could feel the unspoken tension between us crackling like electricity. But Emma's message, it pulled at the part of me that still loved her, that still hoped for answers, for closure, maybe even for reconciliation. And just as I was about to respond, the lights flickered. A shadow moved across the room, darker and larger than anything I'd seen before. Julia froze. I froze. For the first time, I realized that this wasn't just about love, heartbreak, or temptation anymore. Someone, was about to step out of the shadows, and I had no idea who it was or what they wanted. The shadow didn't just linger. It stepped forward, and I recognized the figure instantly. It wasn't a stranger. It was Emma. But there was something wrong. Her expression was cold, controlled, almost unrecognizable. Before I could speak, she held up a small folder. "I've been watching everything," she said, her voice steady, almost eerily calm. "I knew about Julia. I knew you were slipping away from me. But you don't understand the bigger picture. You never did." Julia stepped between us, confusion and fear flashing across her face. "Emma, what are you talking about?" she demanded. Emma's eyes locked on mine. "This isn't just about us, or your little rebound," she said, glancing at the envelope on the coffee table. "There are things you don't know, things that could ruin all of us if they get out." I felt my stomach drop. Every instinct screamed danger, betrayal, and secrets far deeper than a broken marriage. In that instant, I realized the game had shifted. I wasn't just caught between two women I cared about. I was trapped in something much darker. And in the shadows behind Emma, I saw another movement, someone, or something, watching us. Whatever was coming next, it wasn't just going to break my heart. It might destroy everything. The room felt impossibly tight, the air thick with tension. Julia stepped closer to me, her hand brushing mine, while Emma stood a few feet away, her eyes hard and calculating. I wanted to scream, to run, to somehow make sense of the chaos, but I couldn't. Emma took a deep breath. "You've been playing a part in something you didn't even know existed," she said. "That envelope, the job Julia gave you, it wasn't random. I needed you to find out the truth before it was too late." I stared at her, confused. "What truth? Emma, what are you talking about?" Julia looked between us, panic creeping into her features. "What is she saying?" Emma's gaze softened, just slightly. "There's someone dangerous who's been watching us, manipulating everything. The job, the support, it was a test. And you passed it. You were clever, careful, and surprisingly loyal. But now it's time to act." Before I could ask more, a loud crash came from the balcony. My heart leapt into my throat. Shadows twisted, figures moving too fast to see clearly. Then I realized they weren't strangers. They were the people who had been sending the strange emails, moving files, leaving notes. They were connected to Julia's company, and they weren't leaving without a fight. Julia grabbed my arm, eyes wide. "We have to go?" "Now." We ran through the apartment, Emma surprisingly quick and steady, guiding us. Every corner held danger. Every noise made me jump. And then, just when I thought we were safe, Emma stopped. She turned to me with a serious expression I hadn't seen in years. "I need you to trust me," she said. "No matter what happens next." And that's when I saw it. Hidden under the couch, the envelope I had thought was innocent was actually a map, leading to a secret that neither Julia nor I were supposed to know. The realization hit me like a punch. The women I thought I understood, the life I thought I was reclaiming, it had all been a lie. And now, we were trapped in something far bigger than heartbreak, betrayal, or temptation. Because whoever, or whatever, was out there, they weren't done with us yet. By the time we reached the streets, the city felt quieter than ever. Julia clutched the envelope tightly, and Emma walked beside me, her presence both comforting and unnerving. I didn't know what to say. What could I possibly say after everything that had happened? Emma finally broke the silence. "The people you've been unknowingly tangled with, they won't bother you anymore. I made sure of that. But this," she gestured to Julia and me, "this choice, it's yours." I looked at Julia, her eyes searching mine. She had been my lifeline through the storm, the one who gave me hope when everything fell apart. And yet, standing beside Emma, I realized that the woman I loved first still had a place in my heart. It was confusing, messy, and utterly human. I realized life didn't always give neat resolutions. Sometimes it gave lessons. Sometimes it gave second chances. And sometimes it gave both at once. Julia finally spoke, her voice soft but firm. Whatever you choose, I'll understand. I just want you to be safe and happy. Her honesty cut through the tension like sunlight through fog. I wanted to reach for her, to tell her everything I felt, but I hesitated. Emma smiled faintly, a smile I hadn't seen in months. I made mistakes, she said. I left when I shouldn't have. I judged when I shouldn't have. But maybe we can start again, not just for us, but for the life we almost lost. I swallowed hard. There was no easy answer, no perfect choice, but I understood something fundamental. The people who truly care about you will fight for you in ways you may never expect. And sometimes, the line between love and loyalty is thinner than we think. And then, just as I began to feel a flicker of hope, Julia's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and froze. On the screen was a single message. You think it's over, but it's just beginning. I looked at her, then at Emma, and realized that our story wasn't finished. Life had a way of keeping you on your toes, of reminding you that even the darkest chapters can hide another twist. But for the first time in months, I felt alive. I felt like I had survived the storm, like I had learned to navigate love, betrayal, and trust all at once. The future was uncertain, yes, but it was mine to shape. And I would shape it with care, with honesty, and with the courage I never knew I had. As we walked into the night, three of us, bound by chaos, secrets, and an unspoken understanding, I realized one truth. Life doesn't always give closure the way we expect, but it does give a chance to rebuild, to forgive, to hope, and to keep moving forward. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough.